Okay, that was a disaster. Hey, John, I tell you, I haven't done this in so long because I've been so darn busy that nothing is set up the way it's supposed to be. So it's kind of shooting by from the hip and trial by fire and all those things. Oh my goodness!
There you go.
But you and I have been talking about getting back together and doing this for what, 6 months now? I mean, it's been a few.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to introduce everybody to my good friend John Russell. John, of course, is a psychic medium, also a prolific author. Seems to be just kind of writing away constantly, which is fantastic. Gives us a lot to talk about. You can visit his website, johnrussell.net. That's still the one that works, John? I know you've got a couple.
Yeah, johnrussell.net for the readings, and johnrussellauthor.com for information on the books.
All right.
And you can always find me at my Amazon author page and all over the place.
So normally when we get together like this, actually normally when I do any kind of discussion or interview, I spend a lot of time coming up with these really clever questions and this long list of stuff. But what I found with you, John, is I can't control the course of the conversation when you and I chat. I kind of give you the reins and you just take it where we're going to go. But the first thing I need to ask you, given all your sensitivities and your abilities, I need you to tell me, without any hesitation, when the weather will finally improve in upstate New York, because it is freezing here. We had snow yesterday, and I have had enough.
Yep. Wait a while. Wait a while.
Now you sound like my weatherman. I'm not happy with him either. So
I understand that. Oh, it's so good to be back with you, JB. We always have such a good conversation. And lots going on since we last talked, so we're going to have some fun today.
Yeah, there is a lot happening, and I'm looking forward to having this chat, and I've been looking forward to it for a while, but as you know, my schedule has been so unpredictable. Well, not just crazy, but almost unpredictable, and then a couple of illnesses in there, colds and what have you, kind of mess some things up, so the timing has just been kind of awkward, but here we are. It's April. It's 2025, which I still can't get over. We're almost a third of the way.
I can't wrap my head around it. It's crazy, isn't it?
We're almost a third of the way done with this particular year, and another one is going to be knocking on our door soon enough. I just can't handle the way time is progressing. But speaking of time and things and time passing, where are you in the process of books? You've got 4 out now, is that right?
I've got 4 books out now. The brand new one is The Crying Tree and the Magic Rock. And all of these books are available at all major booksellers online. You can get them at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Apple Books. You can order them online through Walmart and Target. A lot of the independent bookstores like Powell's and tons of others that have online capabilities, online ordering, you can order them through them. So they're available everywhere. And the new book, newest book, is coming out hopefully late summer, very, very early August, autumn this year, and that will be titled The Cansack Ghost, and that's the brand new one coming out. And then in 2026, there is a follow-up book to 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities, titled 20 More Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. So, and then there's still more coming after that. So yeah, staying busy with the books.
I've asked you this before because I've often thought, I should sit down and write a book. But the minute I do, I'm like, my mind goes blank. My palms start to sweat. I'm just like, okay, this is not for me. I don't know. How do you do it? I mean, when you decide to write something, what's the process? How do you start?
Well, it's difficult. It takes a lot of self-discipline, takes a lot of dedication. You can't have the cell phone on, and you can't be checking websites on the computer, watching cat videos, and you can't have friends over, you can't have music going, at least not for me. You can't have visitors, you can't get up and run errands or do anything like that. You have to make an appointment to come to the computer, face the blank page, sit down, organize your thoughts, figure out where the book's headed, where you want to go. Then you got to start writing that first page. And you keep doing that. You show up every day, make that appointment every day until the book's finished. And it usually takes about anywhere from 6 to 9 months for me to write a book, revise it, edit it, and then send it off to the publisher. And they send the galley proofs back. And I wind up rereading my entire book 2-3 more times and smoothing everything out. And then it takes a couple of months to hit the shelf. So it's like a year's process for each book.
Yeah, well, when you're doing a good job like you do, John, it takes a while, because I've read some other books, some people who self-publish, and they seem to be in a rush to get the book out, and then I'm reading through and I'm like finding all sorts of typos and errors, and I'm like, man, you got to just slow it down a little bit, because when you finally put the book out, not only do you want it to be factually correct, you want the information in it to be accurate and giving the message that you set out to give, but you also want the typos and the format to all
you want it to be a good product.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's a funny story about editing. I've been my wife calls me the human walking dictionary. There's hardly a word that I don't know how to spell. She always hollers at me from the next room, and how do you spell this? How do you spell that? So I've always been a good speller. I've always been a good reader and proofreader. And my first book, Writing with Ghost Angels and the Spirits of the Dead, gave me virtually zero problems. My second book, A Knock in the Attic, I proofread that thing like no exaggeration. I bet 20, 30, 40 times. Every single time found typos, found errors, found misspellings, and I ran it through every spell check program there was on the planet, and every time I did, it came back with new problems. Did all of that, sent it off to a professional editor, had it professionally edited. He came back with problems. It was like, my God, what is it with this book? Got that book ironed out, got it published, and then went on to the other two. Nary a snag, not a problem. Everything was just smooth sailing. But boy, there was something about A Knock in the Attic. I don't know what it was, but there was just, that's a haunted book for me to write, I tell you.
That brings up another question. Because of the topics that you're writing about and your history, not only as a psychic medium, but a paranormal investigator and all that, do you ever feel like you've got some type of outside or spiritual influence either helping or maybe even providing an obstacle in your writing process?
Always helping, always inspiring, and they will bring things to mind that I had forgotten, and they'll refresh my mind on details that I had forgotten, and they kind of help me structure the book, the order of the book. There's no real story arc in my books because everything is a standalone experience, and you can't really build a story arc on a standalone experience, but they help me put things together in my books in a way that the chapters kind of make sense. So I do get some real help there. And speaking of, there was we always talk about all these paranormal experiences I have all the time. And I was sitting there the other day, and, I've been doing lately, I've been impelled to do a lot of healing work for people and send a lot of positive energy to people, do a lot of things for people. And of course, my readings for my clients. And I've just been devoting an inordinate amount of time in that direction and kind of really neglecting myself, neglecting what I need to do to recharge my batteries. So I was sitting here early in the morning. I usually get up around 4 or 5 in the morning. And I was sitting here in my office the other morning, and from over my left shoulder, I heard this loud pop, almost like a small balloon popping. And I was like, what in the world is that? And I turned around and looked, didn't immediately see anything. So just said, hey guys, what's going on? And didn't really get much of a message or anything. And so later, when I had time to really explore, there was a little plastic basket sitting behind me that I had some tools in, various tarot cards and various things. And I had never noticed before, but there are inserts, plastic inserts on the plastic handles of the basket that just snap into place. And to get them out, you have to pull like super hard. I discovered investigating this, to pull those inserts out. And when you do, they make a loud pop. Well, some spirit had pulled one of those handle inserts out, and that was the loud pop that I heard. And then when I saw that they had pulled that out of that particular basket and what it contained, it was like, oh, yeah, I need to do some of this for myself now. Need to get back to paying attention to recharging my batteries and paying attention to myself. So, yeah, they give me all kinds of messages all the time.
Just forgive me, John. I'm listening, but at the same time, I'm trying to respond to people in chat here. We've got a lot of chat rooms going.
No problem.
We've got questions and a lot of people saying, hey, good to see you back. Great to see John again. So I'm just trying to answer those while we're talking. So, and I'm rusty at it, John. So it takes, a little more brain power.
I understand. And any questions anybody has, feel free to give them to JB and we'll pass them on, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Yeah, we'll definitely take questions from chat as we move along. And I do want to say hello to everybody that's joining us, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Pilled. I think that's all the spots we're at, although we may be in some others. I'm not even sure. Hey, listen, John, I need to know what you're thinking about what's going on from a global psychic sense. What's the energy feeling like? Because I just, we've talked several times, and frequently when we talk, we point out the fact that there seems to be a lot of division, a lot of strife, a lot of anguish. Yeah. I'm not so sure that's getting better. What are you feeling?
Well, at this stage of the game, it's not. I think there's a lot of people working to make it better, but we still have a long way to go. Now, at the start of the year, I was on Coast to Coast AM for New Year's Eve for New Year's predictions. And one of the predictions I made, which I'm actually beginning to see and some other people are seeing and responding to, I said that this year overall, now taking into consideration its normal lumps and bruises and ups and downs, but overall will be somewhat better than 2024 was. And I'm seeing that kind of begin to bear out. Now, to understand that, to see that, you have to take your eyes off the prize. The prize being your particular bias or your particular political party or your hatred of a particular political party or whatever it is that irks you and bothers you as a pet peeve. You have to take your eyes off of that, look at things objectively and look at your life objectively and without emotional content and say, okay, am I doing a little bit better here? And what can I do to make things better for myself? And I think overall, like I say, normal lumps and bruises, we never get away from those, but with all considered, this year is going to be better overall than last year was. And so we need to tap into that positive energy and make use of that to propel ourselves forward the best way we can through all of these circumstances and not let them get to us, not let them get us down. Another prediction I made for this year was that I see a very, very real and strong possibility of the war in Ukraine coming to an end, which would be a blessing there. And something very significant happens around midsummer this year in regard to that. I'm not showing exactly what it is. Maybe it's a meeting, a summit, a final get-together, an agreement on a ceasefire or whatever, but something very important seems to happen around midsummer. So those are a few of the things that I saw for this year. One of the things that I predicted also, and I've already seen it happen, lots of other people have already seen this happen, was that the veil between the worlds thins dramatically this year, and we're going to see a huge increase. UFO sightings, paranormal experiences, psychic experiences, communication from the other side. So you should be seeing this in your investigations. There should be more evidence of contact there, better time to make EVP recordings, to do mediumistic things, all this type of thing. So this is a year, and if you've ever wanted to do that and don't know how, get my third book, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. It'll teach you exactly how to do that, and this is the year to ramp all that up. So we do have some good energies there. We do have some good things happening there, and some good possibilities for us this year.
Well, I want to talk to you about some of your predictions, too, and maybe some of the things that you're seeing as we sit here in April for the rest of the year, and you've touched on some of that. But I do want to go back to a point you just made, because you said maybe in our investigations, we might be experiencing some more things than we normally would. And I have to say, John, that's already been true for us here in this first part of the year.
Yeah.
We've been, Jason and I go out, we investigate places that are reported to be haunted, which it gives us, an advantage already. We're already going to places that people have had experiences. But man, the stuff we've been catching in our investigations, we just got back from the S.K. Pierce house and had some of the most terrific experiences that we caught, whether it was voices or things happening, visually, whatever it is, we caught a lot of stuff. And people who watch the investigations like, wow, how do you guys catch so much stuff? And all I can say is we don't always catch that much stuff.
Yeah,
but
it's just a really hot year.
Yeah, what makes for that? Why is this a planetary thing? Is this a spiritual thing? What's happening?
I think it's a spiritual thing, and I think there are just times that, for whatever reason, the veil thins and the other side is closer, and I think this energy may last for a few years, not just this year, which would be a really great thing. So this is really the time for serious researchers, psychics, mediums, so on and so forth. This is time for us to dig in and really see what beneficial, productive communication we can get from the other side, how we can get that in the most meaningful ways possible, and what are the best, most positive, constructive messages we can get from the other side that help us to move forward in positive ways on this planet. That needs to be our focus right now.
That's something that a lot of people talk about, but it's often hard to practice. You know, preaching it's one thing, practicing it is something else, because we all have things throughout our daily lives that irritate us and poke at us and frustrate us. And we, as humans, just can't help but allow that stuff to come to the surface. And I don't think it's healthy to keep it in, but at the same time, we have to put everything in perspective and realize, you know, life is pretty miraculous and we should be enjoying it and making the best of it. And that includes what we do with our neighbors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How we treat each other, how we treat the planet, how we treat animals, how we look at the world in general. And it's very, like you point out, it's very, very difficult. I've been doing a lot of integration with studying different cultures and different countries and different ways of life, and not looking at it from my perspective, but finding interior dialogues from that particular country's perspective, and allowing the people that are there, that are natives of that country, to explain how life is there and what their culture is and what their viewpoints are. And it's been very disheartening, because there are people in other countries that we think they just resent the U.S. and they don't resent other places. There are people in other countries that are extremely hostile to their neighbors, or extremely dismissive of other peoples in other countries. And so this is a common worldwide trait. And it's something that we all have to work to overcome. We're all very, very tribal, and everyone's tribal. You know, my church is better than your church. Don't attack my church. You know, don't mess with my buddy. I'll jump on you and pound you if you mess with my buddy. And we're all very tribal, and that can be a good thing in some ways. It can also be a very, very bad thing, because we always jump to conclusions about other peoples, other cultures, other races, other countries, so on and so forth. And so these are all things that we have to work on. We have to realize that in our sameness, we also have those tribal differences, and we have to work on healing those and finding ways past those. And that's one of the things I try and do in my books through the spiritual experiences that I've had and what they've taught me, is try and portray that in a way where I'm not just telling you a ghost story. I'm telling you a ghost story with a message or a lesson, or I'm giving you an experience, like in my latest book, The Crying Tree and the Magic Rock. Yeah, there's ghost stories, and yeah, there's paranormal manifestations and psychic experiences, but a lot of them come from a more soft, sensitive perspective, like experiences that I learned from watching and interacting with nature. And one of the hardest chapters to write in that book, I write about my mother's death, which was a really horrific, melodramatic death. And I write from the spiritual perspective of how it made me feel and what she went through. You know, we all have this thing when you're young and you're full of piss and vinegar. The popular thing is, oh boy, I ain't going to lay in no hospital bed all tubed up and on oxygen and machines running and needles and tubes going in and out of me. No, sir, my time comes, let me go. When you're young and you're full of piss and vinegar, that's real easy to say. And it's not so easy to say when the Reaper's standing there with the scythe looking you in the face. And my mother was real cavalier about that, and she was like, "Oh, when my time comes, I ain't worried about it. I don't want to linger. I'll just let me go." And then when it came time that she was approaching death, it was like, no, don't want this. Keep me going. And so there's a lot of things there to learn about the ways that we approach things spiritually, what we think we're going to do, and then when the actual situation occurs, and how our spiritual attitude and experience can change and become different. And I write about that in detail in the book, and it was one of the things I put in there. So, and all of these things, I try and write things to get people to think, to see from a different perspective, to feel from a different perspective, to not just have oh, that was a good scary ghost story, but to learn something from that and put it into their lives in a way that they can advance in their lives and have a better life and have a better understanding, have a better connection with themselves, with others, with the spiritual realm, and do something positive for themselves. So I hope people are getting that from my books, and I think pretty much they are. And some people, I have to tell you this. I hadn't told you this since the last time we talked. This was astonishing.
I just want to make a point related to something you just said, because I also had a difficult situation when my mother passed. She was ill and in a bed, and it was a horrible thing. And you said, when you actually come to the point where you're staring the Reaper in the eye, you don't want to, that. The other part of that, John, is that the family around you doesn't want to let you go. So they, exactly. I know when the doctors were saying to me, what do you want us to do? We kept saying, do everything you can to keep Mom here. Yeah. So the family that's surrounding you at the same time is also encouraging you to have the tubes and the needles and the respirator and all those things to keep you alive, in the hopes that something happens in a positive
miraculous
way.
Occurs.
Yeah. So it's not just your choice when you're in that bed, it's the people around you as well.
Exactly. So what I have to tell you, this I got this email out of the blue from this person, and they said, John, 5 years ago, my mother bought me a copy of Writing with Ghost Angels and the Spirits of the Dead. And they said at that particular time, I was just not in that headspace. I didn't really believe in the supernatural and paranormal that much, didn't believe in psychics. And so she said, I kept the book, but I packed it away. And she said, now, all these years later, I was going through things, and I found your book, and I'm more open, more receptive to that now. So I took your book out, and I put it up on the bookshelf. And I said, okay, I've got to get around to reading this now. I think this will speak to me now. And she said, John, almost every single day that I put that book up on the bookshelf, the day that I put it up there, either that day or the next day, I would find it on the floor in front of my door. I would get it, physically put it back on the bookshelf, and then it would be on the floor in front of my door again. I'd put it on the bookshelf, it would be on the floor in front of my door again. And she said, not only do I need to read this, Spirit is telling me, hey, you need to read this book. And she said, I did, and it opened my eyes, and it made sense, and it opened me up to things. And she said, even more wildly, I began to experience some mirror manifestations of things that you experienced in the book and wrote about. Those begin to occur in my life. And she thanked me for writing the book. And I was like, man, it don't get no better than that. And it's like, okay, folks, that's why I write these books. It's not BS. It's not malarkey. It's not imaginings. It's certainly not to make money. And, that's why I write these things, is to get people open to these experiences, to understand these experiences, to not fear them. And that was just such an awesome email to get. Just mind-blowing.
Oh, that's amazing. I do want to get to a couple of your predictions just to chat about them casually. But before I do, John, there are people that are joining the chat that just aren't familiar with your work. We've thrown some titles around, but go through the four books and just give us a quick idea of what each one's about.
Sure. The first book is Writing with Ghost Angels and the Spirits of the Dead. That's my flagship book, my first book. And that centers mostly on my motorcycle rides, for all the wild paranormal experiences and manifestations I've had, way over 1,000. I had some paranormal experiences and some psychic experiences while riding my motorcycle that were just over the top even for what I've experienced. I said, I got to put these in book form and save these and get these out there. The second book, A Knock in the Attic, this goes sequentially from my childhood to my paranormal and psychic awakening, up through my adulthood, my move to New York, our subsequent move to Florida, and so on and so forth. And really contains a lot of open and honest personal stuff. The third book, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities, is just that. Each chapter is a different technique. And this strips away all the rigmarole, the gobbledygook of learning psychic tools and techniques. And my qualifications to write this, I've been a professional psychic for over 50 years. I started doing paranormal investigations at the age of 11. And I know what works and what doesn't, what's phony and what's not. And you don't have to have a bunch of rigmarole to do these techniques. And I stripped all that away, made them plain and simple. I define them. I take you by the hand, lead you step by step through how to learn it, practice it, get good at it, the real world application of it. So that's that book. And then the latest book, The Crying Tree and the Magic Rock. that returns back to the storytelling mode. And like I say, again, opening up there with some things that I've never written about before, like going back to my childhood and really crazy paranormal manifestations and happenings there, the death of my mother, the spiritual lessons I've learned from nature and how we can apply those, as well as still some really good ghost stories. So that's basically, in a nutshell, each book.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the things you see moving forward. And I know that we didn't really say in advance, hey, let's talk about predictions. But what do you mentioned the war in Ukraine. Hopefully you're right about that, because man, the killing, the killing and the dying is it's crazy.
It's insane.
It is absolutely insane. What else do you see for the year?
Well, one of the things that came to me was, and this, I hope to God, I'm accurate on this, because, we've made advances. There are people that care about the water, and they care about the water quality, and they're trying to see what they can do to clean up the oceans and the rivers and the lakes and make our water better. And there's people that are actively working on that are really concerned about that. And one of the predictions that I made was that somewhere this year, there's going to be the beginning of someone that begins to really seriously care about our air quality. And this can't happen quickly enough, because I'm looking at I have asthma and I have COPD. And so every day I get up and I check the air quality, I check the asthma forecast, I check the allergy forecast. And it's been bad enough over the years, but this year, when I look at the air quality, I've seen, now the higher the number is, the worse the air quality is. And it's usually been around 12 to 14 on good days, maybe up around 20 on really, really bad days. This year, I've seen the air quality up in the 50s and even the 60s. And this is out of 100, okay? So 50 or 60 out of 100, which is like super, super poor, horrible air quality. The allergy count on a really good day hovers around 1 or 2. On bad days, maybe 10, maybe 12 every now and then. And it used to hit that and then fall down and then go through a low spell and then come back up for a while. Now I'm seeing 10 and 12 counts every day. Every day. It doesn't cease. And then the asthma index, which goes on a scale of like 1 to 10, it used to hover around 1 to 2, maybe spike around 3 or 4. Now I'm seeing 6s, 7s, and 8s. I saw an 8.5 the other day. So this is, our air quality is horrific. The pollens, the allergens are horrific.
John, let me ask you a question about that, because I suffer from allergies too, and anybody who's watched my investigations with Jason know that you can hear me breathing a lot of times because my nose is stuffed up. I mean, it's just it's been a curse I've lived with. But allergy, for when you talk about pollen counts and those types of things, I almost think that's kind of a two sides of a coin here. One is that it's an irritant for allergies, but it's a good thing. It means the plant life is vibrant, doesn't it? Or am I wrong about that?
Well, I guess that it does. I guess that's one way to look at it, but it sure does hurt us in the process.
Yeah, it does. I'll agree with that.
So it's a double-edged sword there. What's good for Mother Nature, not necessarily good for us.
That's right.
But I'm seeing that somebody this year hopefully is going to be in the beginning stages of saying, hey, what can we do about this air quality issue? And I think some of it just has to be due diligence, because I know we've got a lot of construction going on here now, and they burn the wood that they clear cut, and that smoke goes out in the atmosphere. That makes everybody nuts. And then they pile all the construction dirt up in big piles, and they don't wet it down. And so when the wind blows, the air is just full of dust, comes in your home, everything else. So that's driving everybody crazy. So a lot of it just has to be common sense and due diligence, and making sure we're doing everything to control the quality of air and to make it as good as we can. But I think somebody is going to start coming up with some mechanical, some electronic, some industrial solutions that down the road are going to help to make things better.
I've got a couple of questions here I want to throw at you before this chat scrolls past me and I forget them and don't have them in front of me. Earl wanted to know earlier, based on the conversations we were having with the veil being thinner and all of that this year.
Right.
I mean, this is probably the $1 million question, John, and I'm sure you, and I know I've asked you before, but I'm sure you get it all the time. But Earl's question is pretty straightforward. Is there an afterlife, John?
I believe 100% that there is. I have experienced enough through the readings with my clients and with direct conversation with spirits, with communication with spirits, that it convinces me that there's an afterlife. Absolutely.
And I think that just by the nature of the fact that you have, basically communicated with those on the other side as a professional medium, and I have, my own experiences from a paranormal perspective that convince me that something other than what we're seeing in this material world. I mean, even if we only had one of those experiences, we'd have to conclude that there's something on the other side, which would by definition mean there's some kind of afterlife. Emma wants to know. Emma's watching and listening from the UK, by the way, and Emma wants to know what was the genesis of you discovering your sensitivities and abilities, John?
That was, and I write about this in The Knock in the Attic. If you'd like to get that, it's available in the UK. You can order it through Amazon UK, Waterstones. A lot of UK stores carry it to order. The genesis for all of this was I was awakened to these paranormal manifestations by an old black ghost that came and visited me when I was about 5.5 years old. And then subsequent to that, I began to have these paranormal manifestations on the physical realm. Other people saw them and experienced them. My parents did, my friends did. So they were real experiences. They really happened. And then as an outgrowth of that, I became aware of my psychic gift one day when I was close to 6 years old. And I began to tell not only could I see into people's lives, I could accurately predict their futures. And so I began to study everything on the planet I could find, talk to everybody I could, because I wanted to, let's see how far I can take this. How good can I make it? How can I make this better? What's true and what isn't? And my North Star for all of this was always have a moral compass. So don't ever cheat, don't ever lie, don't ever do people wrong, because I saw a lot of people in the religious and spiritual community doing that, even at a young age. I realized that. And the other thing was, people talk a good game, but does it actually work in real life? If it does, let's keep it using. If it doesn't, let's chunk it and try and find something that does. And again, that was my impetus in writing 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. These techniques work. If you take them, put them in practice, they will work for you. But that's where it all started, at a very, very young age.
I have to share a story, John, and hope you don't mind, something that happened between you and I recently during our back and forth about how and when we were going to schedule this discussion. I had told you that I was heading out of town. I had to go to Nashville for some business. And during the course of texts between the two of us, you had said to me, hey, by the way, I can't remember exactly how you'd put it. I have to look at the text. But basically, you gave me a warning about my daughter traveling within the next couple of weeks, which I knew, and you didn't know this, but I knew that within a few days she was actually leaving, because I live in Cooperstown. She was heading back to where she lives in New York City. That's a 4-hour drive. And I'm like, alarm bells going off. I need you to help me. I need you to help me and the folks listening how to process that. You and I had an exchange which helped ease my mind a little bit, and just so everybody knows, she made it home fine. But how do you help people process that type of warning when it comes from someone as reputable as you?
Well, one thing that you have to do is, first thing, can you, like in this case, can you heed the warning and not do anything at all? Can you just, shelter in place, basically? And then if that's not possible, you want to have absolute maximum focus on safety, full attention on what you're doing, whether it's walking, driving, whatever it is, and take whatever steps you can to protect yourself spiritually. Surround yourself with white light, positive energy, whatever. And I told you, that I'd be sending that to her. You said you'd be sending that to her. We did. So that's some of the things you can take to mitigate it, where there's circumstances that, this has got to be done. Well, let's take all the precautions that we can.
I think that there's another component to this, and Hollywood has kind of conditioned us to think that once a psychic makes a prediction, it's inevitable. But the bottom line here is we've got free will. And
Yeah.
when you see something, it's not necessarily what will be, it's more what could be, and taking those warnings and heeding that advice and maybe altering your behavior a little bit actually can make the outcome different, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are cases where I see something and it's going to happen regardless of what you do or don't do. And when that does occur, I tell people if it's good, I tell people here's how to position yourself for it to get the best out of this. And if it is something negative and I see there's no way to get around it, it's like, okay, let's take these steps to minimize it and to learn from it. But yeah, there are a lot of times that I see things from people. It's like, take it to the bank. This is going to happen whether you think it is or not. And I've had a lot of clients come back over the years and tell me, yeah, you were right. I should have listened. So it does happen. But yeah, we do have free will. We do have free choice. And that's most of the time, I think, for our lives. But there are things that have been shown. And it's like, this is going to happen. Get ready for it. Believe it. And some of those predictions have been very far-ranging, a year or two ahead, and have come to pass. And it's been very interesting to see those play out.
John, we had a great investigation a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now. Our good friends at Empirical Paranormal, Gina and crew there, set us up to investigate an old home. We'll call it a mansion, although I think by the standards of the folks that built it, they didn't consider it a mansion because the next one they built was 10 times the size. But either way, it was called the Bundy House. It was from the guy that the house was the house of the man who he and his brother invented the time clock to track employee time, punch in, punch out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That company eventually became IBM. So that's the type of success that this man and the family had. But either way, now what was my point about this? Oh, so Empirical Paranormal is in our chat room, and Gina asks a question. She says, do you believe that everybody has some kind of psychic abilities and intuition? I know the answer to this question, John, but what's the answer?
Yeah, the answer is everybody does. We get it to various degrees. And no matter how long and hard you study, you may never develop to the ability that I have, to the ability that my gifts have, my talents have. It's like playing the piano. Every single person can learn to play the piano to a degree. You may sit down and study for a year and barely be able to play chopsticks, but you can play chopsticks, and that's as far as it goes. Other people are going to be concert pianists and just make you weep at the sound of the quality of their music and the emotion and the fire and the energy they put into it. So yeah, everybody has it. That's another reason I wrote the 20 Ways book. Is like, look, take this, find what's attractive to you, and then work on it and increase your abilities to whatever level you're able. And it's not to impress people or do parlor tricks or anything like that. It's to take these techniques, put them in your life in meaningful ways, and really do something good with them. And I'll give you one example, one of the bits of feedback I got from this. A person that I know got the book, started working on the candle magic and a few other things, and was really, really into that. And they did the candle magic, and they won. They had a big a jackpot of money that at their work that everybody put into, and it was up to several $100s. And she really wanted to win this pot, never had. So she did the candle magic routine. She won the pot. So then they had another thing, and there was like various bags, gift bags, and they were all stacked there together. And I teach how to manifest and interpret and utilize energy with your hands in the book. And so one of the bags had a lot of cash in it, and the other bags just had, like maybe gift certificates and whatever, little small gifts or whatever, but one of them had a substantial amount of cash in it. And so she went up and she started running her hands across the bags, passing her hands back and forth across the bags. People said, what are you doing? She said, I'm finding the one with money in it. And she did. And she got the one with the money. So there are practical things that you can use these things for. You can use them for healing. You can use them for examples like that. Find out when people are lying to you or telling you the truth. Getting better contact with your guardian angels. Dream work, and dream interpretation, all types of valuable things.
Emma has a follow-up to her other question. She said that she often has very vivid dreams from loved ones that have passed, and she feels like they want to talk to me. John, do you think that's what that message is, and what should she do if she wants to communicate?
I do believe that's the case, and I think the easiest thing to do is just reach out to your loved ones before you go to sleep and tell your subconscious that you want to have a lucid dream and a lucid connection with your loved ones on the other side, and ask them to come to you. And if they have any particular message, try and make it as clear as possible. And I do have an entire chapter on dream interpretation in the book, so that may be helpful. But yeah, just talk to them, ask them to come and visit with you, and be grateful and accepting when they do. And if it is something weird and off the wall, remember, the stranger a dream is, usually the more important it is. And I teach you how to make those interpretations in my book, and that'll help her out.
I want to. No, go ahead.
I have to tell you, don't forget what you're going to say. I have to tell you one of my favorite examples in this book, in 20 ways, talking about dreams. I had a friend that worked for the National Security Agency, the NSA, and he was a code breaker. And he told me about this time that they had gotten the code in. They had all the machines on it. They had all the best minds on it. Could not break this code. Could not crack this code. And he said he threw himself into this thing. He became obsessed with breaking this code. And he said it just drove him to the point of distraction. He was just totally exhausted, mentally, physically, spiritually, every possible way. And he said he came in one night, and he walked to the foot of his bed. And he turned around, put the back of his legs against the foot of his bed, and just fell over backward into bed with his shoes on, his suit and tie on, everything. And immediately fell into this exhausted sleep. That's how tired he was. And he said he began to lucid dream. And he said, John, here came the characters of this code running across, like you see the stock market streamers like in Times Square and stuff. He said, here come the characters of that code running across this ticker tape type thing, this streamer. And he said, my God, I can't get away from this thing even in my sleep. And then he said a second scroll appeared beneath it, and directly beneath the characters were the letters in English and clear. And he said, I immediately woke up, and he said, I always had pad and paper around. He said, I had one by my bed, and I wrote down what I remembered of the characters in the English and clear. I raced back to the office, and that was it. I broke the code. So our dreams can bring us a lot of meaningful information if we'll learn how to use it.
I love stories like that, and I've actually interviewed some folks who've studied that, and how a lot of inspiration, whether it's artistic inspiration or inventive inspiration, comes to us in dreams. It's pretty amazing stuff. I want to ask you about a dream situation that I had recently, and again, this is tied to one of our investigations. Jason and I were investigating at the Shanley Hotel in Napanoch, New York. Great place, by the way. I recommend it if anybody's looking for a place to go investigate or just visit. And both of us, we were there for a couple of nights, but the first night we were there, both of us ended up having very, very bizarre dreams. I mean, to the point where I don't usually remember my dreams. B, I don't usually talk about them when I do remember them. This one, the next morning, he and I both, like almost at the same time, said, hey, I had a really strange dream last night. And it wasn't necessarily the same dream, and I can't even give you the details of the dream now. But the fact that we both were in a quote-unquote haunted place, and we both had very, very unusual dreams, like very unusual dreams. What do you make of that?
Well, you get this when you're in a place like that, and then your dreams are predisposed to connection with the other side to begin with. There's an awful lot of paranormal static floating around out there in the atmosphere. And when your conscious mind shuts down, you're more susceptible to not only communication from the other side in your dreams, but just a lot of this static, this paranormal static that floats around out there. So any place that you've been that's been very, very active, that has energy, that has residual energy, that has residual memories floating around the atmosphere, that has active spirits there, maybe nature spirits there, maybe different other kinds of spirits, and then maybe people that may try and communicate with you. There's just an awful lot of static out there, and sometimes that overwhelms your ability to fine-tune it and get something concrete that you can focus on among all the static that's going on.
I mean, clearly, in retrospect, I can say there wasn't anything menacing about that because we completed our investigation and we're fine.
Sure.
But does anything like that ever send up like alarm bells for you? If you're at a place and you start to have something very bizarre going on in your dreams, is that a warning of any kind?
No, I've never experienced anything like that. Again, I think always tell people, say, look, don't get in over your head when you're doing paranormal investigations, because there are things that maybe are not harmful and are not scary, but you interpret them that way. And so I would be comfortable going into places that somebody else might pull their hair and run out of screaming, and it would mean nothing to me. But for them, it might scare them. So I always tell people, know yourself, know what your triggers are, what are you afraid of, and whether it's a rational fear or not, it's still a real fear for you. So that's going to color what you do and how you interpret everything that happens to you during a spiritual experience or an investigation. So you just need to know yourself, and know the paranormal affects everybody different physically as well. I remember I took my son when he was younger. We went to this old abandoned house, and it was just really powerfully spiritually charged, and I felt really energized by it, and he got nauseated and nearly threw up. So everybody has to know your limitations, how you respond to things physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Just know yourself, and don't go into areas that you don't feel good about going into.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. John, we've got about, 5 minutes or so left. This time goes quickly.
Oh, wow.
But one of the questions that I did write down, and I wanted to ask you this, and I don't think I've asked it before. What are you most appreciative with your gifts? Why do you what makes you most satisfied about having these gifts?
The ability to help other people, and I've read for clients in over 40 countries, which absolutely blows my mind. And I get feedback from readers all over the world. My books are available worldwide, and I get feedback from readers all over the world telling me that they appreciate what I've written, that it's taken away the fear of the unknown, the fear of the paranormal, that it's improved their lives, that it's entertained them, that it's helped them. And so that's what it's all about. And I think when I can sit down and point somebody in a positive direction in their lives, and that comes true for them, and it works, it's positive, it's helpful, and it's a great feeling. And I mean, there have been people that, when I can tell somebody this, and this is going to happen, and then it does, and they say, okay, this guy's a genuine gift, I can rely on what he tells me. Most importantly, I can rely on the fact that the other side knows this and is able to communicate this to someone, to me, to help make my life better, to help me prepare for my life. And I love being able to do that. And I love when people come back to me and say, John, you were right, that this worked or this helped or whatever. I remember one really funny incident I'll tell you real quick before we have to wrap up. This person that worked for my credit card processing company called for a reading and said, this first reading I've ever had in my life. And I said, oh, thank God you didn't get a hold of some con artist, and I'm honored to help you. So I'm doing the reading, and their hair is blown back. They're just like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever experienced. Everything you're telling me has been accurate, has been true, and so on and so forth. We got down to the end of the reading. I said, here's 3 things. Write these down. You've got to remember these. Don't lose these. I said, you're going to move to Nevada, I think to Las Vegas. I said, you're going to start your own credit card processing company, and you're going to make more money than you've ever made in your life. And they started guffawing. I mean, they literally just started laughing. I said, what is it? And they said, John, everything you've said up to now has blown my hair back. But this, honey, you are so far off the beam with this. I hate Nevada. I especially hate Las Vegas. I would never move there. I don't have the money or the power or the connections to open up my own business in this field. It's extremely complicated. You got to have a lot of connections, a lot of money. And thirdly, I'm pretty much topped out money-wise in my field right now. I can't see myself earning anymore. I said, just write those down, holler back at me down the road. So several months down the road, she got back in touch with me and said, I moved to Vegas, and I started my own credit card processing company, and I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life. And so being able to do things like that for people, that's just a fantastic and a marvelous thing.
And John, I know you well enough, and we've known each other long enough that I knew your answer was going to be about helping people, and I can really respect that. I want to give you a chance to let people know where they can get your books, but before I do that, I need to make a mention of our good friend, Big Hair Tsunami, who is always a delight to have in our chat room, and Big Hair made a super chat contribution, but I have to read to you the message that goes along with it. This is for JV's new Velcro shoes, just for men hair coloring, 5-course puree dinner, square dance competition fees, glamour shorts, pose lessons, hip replacement, members only jacket, ugly Irish cap, and anything else on your list. JV, just let me know. We love you.
Oh, that's terrific. That is terrific.
That's awesome. Classic. That's classic. John, where can people, A, get consultations with you if they're interested in doing that, and B, get the books?
Right. Go to johnrussell.net. Johnrussell.net. That takes you to my psychic website. It's got over 80 client testimonials on there, my media appearances and testimonials, my credentials, so on and so forth. For those interested in the books, go to Amazon and follow me on my authors page there. You can go to johnrussellauthor.com, johnrussellauthor.com, and it's got links to my books. It's got links to buy them at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, wherever you want to get them. Each book has its own page you can click and it'll link to, and it shows you the awards each book has won, the endorsements, the reviews, everything else is on those pages as well. And for UK listeners, for people overseas, yes, the books are available virtually worldwide. I've seen them advertised on for order online on Taiwanese sites, Chinese, Japanese. They're available in Australia. They're available in the UK. It blows my mind, but they are available. You have to order them and wait for them unless you're going to download them. Of course, download them like the Kindle version or whatever. You can do that immediately, but they are available in the UK. So look for them there, and greatly appreciate it.
Seeing all the love that's coming from all the different chat rooms for both you, John, and for just the fact that we're doing an interview here today. Thank you to everybody. We will do this more often. Yeah. This should have happened with John months ago, but we just had a lot of things coming up that got in the way. Hopefully we'll be able to make it happen again without so much time lapsing in between. But John, thanks so much. You're such a great friend, and it's always a pleasure having you.
You too.
And
it's an honor to be here.
It goes
and I appreciate everybody that
fast. It goes so fast,
yes,
John.
It does. It goes way too fast. The new book's coming out hopefully in the summer, very, very early autumn, and when that comes out, we'll get back on and talk about that one too.
Yeah, we'll make a point of doing that. Thanks to everybody. Absolutely. Thank you, Big Hair, for the super chat. Thanks to everybody who's been watching, regardless of where you're watching. And I promise we'll be back on before too long. I don't know when, but we'll do it. We'll do it again soon. John, thanks. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody. God bless.